It's winter. You have an accident. And because of the forgetting curve, you'll forget 50% of all the important details in just 2 hours. You'll forget 70% in 24 hours. Sure, there's so much happening, so do yourself a favor and do me a favor, write it all down. Call me Joe Stanley.
If you treat your injury case like a drop-off dry cleaning ticket, you will not win the maximum award. When you've had a serious accident, your case is not a handoff. It requires teamwork. And if the left hand isn't talking to the right, you can actually lose money. Maximum awards are built on working together. And let me explain how that is. You always have to tell the truth. Always have to tell the truth. Because if you don't tell the truth, you can't deal with the facts as they are. As I always tell my clients, I can always deal with the facts as I know them. As long as you tell me the truth, there's always a way to deal with them. But you can't deal with them when you don't know about them. And if they crop up anytime during the case, it's always bad. This next point is, how does this mean to you? This is an important thing, staying off social media. Everyone loves social media. But here's an example of why social media can be bad. You can say a lot of things and do a lot of things on social media that can be misinterpreted, misunderstood, or just transformed or framed to your disadvantage. Let me give you an example. In the old days, the insurance companies used to hire investigators to chase clients down and to see what they were doing because they thought everybody was a faker. Because in their mind, everyone is a faker. But they don't need to do it anymore because they have the luxury of social media. Everyone, and I say everyone, except for a very small percentage, loves putting their life out there on social media. And unfortunately, many of the things you say and do appear innocent, but again, they can be transformed into something that is not helpful to you. And so, yes, you have to stay off social media. Is that hard? I guess for a lot of people, it may be impossible because I can tell you, as an example, we have clients, no matter how many times we tell them, stay off social media. Don't do this. They'll come to a deposition and there will be reams of information about them commenting on this and that to their disadvantage. So the point is, yeah, you can go on social media, but unless you're skillful at portraying yourself as it needs to be in the courtroom, it's not going to turn out to your advantage. So sometimes the advice you get from your doctor or your lawyer is not the medicine you want, but it's the medicine you need. And to go along with that, again, is that when we're working to stay off social media, we're also working together and communicating as to what is going on. Okay? And what is going on in a lawsuit is mostly you documenting how it has affected your life. Let me give you an example. You have to go to the doctor under most court theories to demonstrate your causally related injuries. And if you don't go to the doctor and you don't have your injuries verified and related to the accident, you can't prove a case. I mean, that's just how this works. I can't tell you the number of clients I've had over the years who, won't go to the doctor because they don't like doctors, which I can sympathize with that. I know what it feels like. I don't like doctors either for many reasons, but it's part of the system. And if you don't go to the doctor's appointment, you don't get treatment, you don't document both the mental and physical problems you're having, you can't prove your case. And I just had a case last week with a client who said, I have this, I have that. It affects me this way. It affects me that way. And I said, your doctors don't say this anywhere. It's not written down anywhere. Well, I don't tell them. And I haven't gone. And I said, well, I believe you. You believe yourself, but it doesn't matter because it's not admissible in a courtroom. The fundamental fact is, as part of this system, is that you must get causally related medical treatment. You must document your injuries and follow all the steps and advice we give you to make your case better. And also, coincidentally, the things that help make your case better are going to help you feel better, help you get better, and help you achieve a resolution of your medical condition. You know, as an example, many people don't go to the doctors because they just don't think they're going to be helpful. Well, most of the time that's not the case. So if you don't go and you're not getting better, it's probably because you're not getting the right treatments, or at least you don't even understand what is wrong with you. So that's incredibly important. The next point in terms of this teamwork and how this all interrelates is one accident can create multiple legal issues, multiple legal tracks. Say you're in a car accident. Your car accident can involve a lawsuit and personal injury claim for the car accident. But if you were working on the job driving the car, then you have a workers' compensation claim. And ultimately, your injury may be so severe that you can't work anymore, and that might involve Social Security disability. Okay? Those three things, by the way, happen in a substantial number of cases. All right? And let me explain. These aren't separate issues. They're all interrelated. They overlap. And what people don't understand is winning one case while harming another isn't winning. And what does that mean? Let me explain, okay? For instance, you're in a car crash and you have a workers' compensation case. You may testify in that workers' compensation case. You may give evidence in that case. You may have doctors examining you in that case. And if you are not properly advised as to how that testimony is going to affect your car accident litigation, you can get yourself into serious problems. I have had cases in which other lawyers handled workers' compensation claims for car accidents and other kind of cases, it doesn't matter, and allowed them to testify at a workers' compensation hearing. Now, this is sworn testimony under oath at a hearing. And because of the way they answered questions, it was then used against them in their other lawsuit, whether it was a car crash or a construction case. And those things have to be avoided, okay? Those have to be avoided. You have to understand that sworn testimony under any proceeding involving your case can and will be used against you, but it also can be used for you. The same is true for the medical experts that workers' comp or Social Security might hire to prove or disprove your disability. Everyone has to be aware of them. We have to be aware of them because they can and will be used either for or against you. Now, what things besides that can happen, and what does it mean to you? Well, workers' comp cases are something that people know about, but they don't, okay? And every dollar that they pay you in those cases, if you have another lawsuit, they have what's called a workers' compensation lien. And that workers' compensation lien entitles them to recover their money subject to paying an attorney's fee and expenses. All right? So how that works can be problematic in particularly serious injury cases, okay? And that involves how the settlements are offset by these liens. And depending on whether you settle your workers' compensation case before your personal injury case, can have significant financial impacts as to the final resolution. I don't want to go into the weeds here, but those are one of the reasons why that these cases should be handled together. They're complex, they're intricately intertwined, and that if you don't understand the subtleties, you can have huge financial impact on the client. So same can go with Social Security, because Social Security is intertwined with workers' comp and how much you get or can't get. And so these are all issues your lawyers should be intricately involved with in resolving all of your cases, okay? Because if they're not all factored in and they're all randomly handled or handled separately, it can result in a reduced total recovery, or more problematically, even bad legal problems if the liens aren't handled right, and other issues can occur that you just don't ever want to be there, okay? And so what's my point? My point is that every case can be very complicated, and it's not eminently clear to you or anybody who is the injured party, what is all this going on? What is all this stuff? Why am I giving money back to somebody who's paying me? And why do I have to wait for this? Or why do I have to wait for that? Or why are they doing this to me? The answer is everybody wants to pay as little as possible, which means that they don't want you to get your maximum award. That's the point. So the Stanley system is to maximize the award, and maximizing the award means maximizing the entire picture, looking at the whole outcome. So how do we do that? Here's the example of how we do it. We internally coordinate the cases between the lawyers and the kind of cases. We look at the timing that has to be there, the timing to handle these situations. And then when the cases eventually resolve, we talk about how the funds are best handled for the client. Now, let me give you an example. Everybody thinks that they can manage their money. You get a large sum of money, and everyone thinks that they're qualified to handle it. And I can tell you that, myself included, I don't think I would be capable in handling a large sum of money without professional advice to make sure that I was protected and taken care of if I had a long-term significant disability. And that's where we try to advise clients as to structured settlements and other arrangements for handling their settlements so that they are protected for life. And what does that mean to you? Okay, you get a large sum of money and you choose to just do it alone, so to speak. It sounds like a slogan some lawyer uses, but don't go it alone there, because if you're not protecting yourself, that money will disappear. And I can tell you the sad stories I've had of clients that I've offered assistance and guidance, and they didn't take it. And not many years later, the money was all gone, and the disability was not. See, that's the real crux of the matter, and that's what it all means to you. You have a long-term permanent disability. The money that you get from all of these compensation opportunities are all you're going to get. And if they're squandered, they're not handled right, you come out the other end without anything. Your life is not going to be what it should have been. We have lots of clients, and I have such great respect for clients, the things they go through. I know I was in my own accident, and I can't even imagine my accident was minor compared to most of my clients. That they're really the heroes of the show, of all the things they go through, all the things they put up with to do the things that are necessary to get the maximum award. Al and Sheila, here's an example. Al and Sheila, they gave a testimonial, where they tell us about how our partnership and help them move forward and increase the ability to get a good result. And Al and Sheila said, as part of this team process, we were always available to speak with, to answer any questions we had, or would always return our calls the same day. Never had to wait days or weeks like other businesses. During Al's time before major surgery, Connor and Tim, which are two Stanley Law teams, would always check in with me for updates. They were always there, every call answered, every question handled, every step of the way. Thank you for everything and making a very difficult time in our lives a little easier. Al faced surgery, Sheila stayed engaged, communication stayed strong, and our strategy stayed aligned. Well, and just let me explain. Al and Sheila were treated the way we try to treat every client. That's the team working together. Connor and Tim were working with them every step of the way. And God bless them, because trying to answer every phone call on every day, you would have no idea how many phone calls we get and how many clients we have that are suffering from the situation that they are in. And a lot of times, we're attorneys and counselors at law, but I can say without equivocation that a vast amount of the time we spend is more counselor than attorney. Counseling, because for a lot of people, the law firm and the lawyers handling their injury case for a significant disability are the only people they can even communicate with, the only people that can help them understand. In this day and age of not a lot of close communication, we still try to be there for you, because working together is winning together. Winning requires communication, integration, patience, which I like to work on myself, trust. So when everyone moves in the same direction, working together, insurance companies lose their power. That's a big part of how and why the Stanley system works. Thanks for joining me today for That's the Law. I'm Joe Stanley. You're injured, a serious injury. You need to make an important decision. Are you going to just settle for some, or do what smart people do? Get the maximum. We're Stanley Law, the maximum award people.
What does striving for the maximum award for each and every client mean in practical terms? And how is your approach different, Joe, from other firms?
Every case has an optimum that you hope to get in, depending on how much insurance there is, how hurt the person is, their age and background. Those things all come together to determine what is the optimum recovery. Now, the optimum recovery may be more work than getting a lesser amount. And so I think it's one of those things we work to get our client the best amount. And in some situations, we have to do a lot more work, but a little bit means a lot to our clients. And it's their only one chance for whatever they have to get For us, there are going to be other clients, but for every client, we have to look at it. This is their opportunity. This is what happened to them. And so it's incredibly important that you focus on what the best possible outcome is for them under those circumstances.
Stanley Law, the maximum award people.